I stood on the sidewalk in front of my house, or what used to be my house, with my suitcase still in hand, jet-lagged and confused. The flight from Tokyo had been long, and all I wanted was to collapse into my own bed. Instead, I was watching complete strangers carry a sofa through my front door. My front door. "What's going on here?" I called out, walking up the driveway. A middle-aged man in a polo shirt turned around, looking just as confused as I felt. "Can I help you?" he asked, polite but cautious. "I live here," I said, my heart starting to pound. "This is my house." The man's face shifted from confusion to concern. "I'm sorry, sir, but we just bought this property. Closed on it 5 days ago. We're moving in today." The world tilted slightly. 5 days ago, I was standing in front of a temple in Kyoto, completely unaware that my life was being torn apart back home. There must be some mistake. "I'm Harold Mitchell. I've owned this house for 23 years. Dad!" I turned to see Jessica walking up from a car parked down the street. Troy was with her, that smug expression he wore so often plastered across his face. Relief flooded through me for just a moment. Surely my daughter would straighten this out, explain whatever bizarre mix-up had occurred. "Jessica, thank God. Can you tell these people there's been some kind of error? They think they bought our house." But Jessica didn't look concerned. She looked pleased. That should have been my first warning. "There's no error, Dad," she said, crossing her arms. "We sold the house." The words didn't make sense. They were English. I understood each one individually, but strung together like that, they became meaningless noise. "You... what?" Troy stepped forward, hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels like he'd just won something. "We sold your house, Harold. Got a great price, too. $340,000. Cash buyer, quick close. Really couldn't have worked out better." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I looked at Jessica, searching her face for some sign that this was a joke, a misunderstanding, anything but what it appeared to be. "How could you possibly? I never agreed to." "The power of attorney you gave me?" Jessica said simply, like she was explaining something obvious to a child. "Before you left for Japan, remember? You said I should have it, just in case of emergencies. For medical emergencies. If something happened to me while I was traveling." She shrugged. "It didn't specify. And we had an emergency, Dad. A financial one. Troy owed some people a lot of money. Dangerous people. We needed $300,000. And you have it, or had it, sitting here in this house, doing nothing." "Doing nothing? I live here. This is my home. The home your mother and I built together." "Had to be done," Troy said, examining his fingernails. "We asked you for help months ago, remember? You said no. Said we needed to learn to manage our finances better. Well, we managed. We solved the problem ourselves." I stared at them. These two people I thought I knew. My daughter, the little girl I'd pushed on swings and taught to ride a bike. The teenager I'd helped study for college exams. The woman I'd walked down the aisle only 8 years ago. "Where did you think I would live?" I asked quietly. Jessica's face hardened. "That's not really our problem anymore, Dad. Maybe you should have thought about that before refusing to help your own daughter. Maybe you should have considered that we might have to take drastic action." "You could find a shelter," Troy offered helpfully, that smirk growing wider. "Or sleep in your car. You've got that nice Camry, right? Plenty of room in the back seat." They were enjoying this. Actually enjoying watching me realize I'd been betrayed. That I had nowhere to go. That my own child had stolen everything from me. Something inside me shifted then. The shock began to fade, replaced by something else. Something calmer. Because even through the jet lag and the disbelief, I was starting to remember certain things. Important things. Things that Maggie had helped me arrange 2 years ago. A smile touched my lips. I couldn't help it. Jessica's expression changed instantly. "What's so funny?" "Yeah," Troy added, his smugness faltering. "What are you smiling about, old man? You're homeless. We just took everything from you. What could possibly be funny about that?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the name I needed. What's funny, I said slowly, is that the house you sold was actually 3 months earlier. I'd sat at my kitchen table with brochures spread out in front of me, temples, gardens, traditional inns in Japan. Catherine and I had planned this trip for years, always saying, next year or when we retire. Then she got sick, and next year never came. You should go, Maggie had said over coffee that morning. Catherine would want you to. She was right. 5 years of grief was enough. It was time to take that trip, even if I had to take it alone. When I told Jessica about it 2 days later, her reaction seemed genuinely supportive. That's wonderful, Dad. How long will you be gone? 3 weeks. I know it's a long time, but don't apologize. You deserve it. You've barely taken a vacation since Mom died. Troy had nodded along, his arm around Jessica's shoulders. Absolutely, Harold. You should enjoy yourself. We'll keep an eye on things here. That should have been my second warning. Troy was never that agreeable. I didn't see the look they exchanged after I left that day. Didn't know that as soon as my car pulled away, Troy started pacing their apartment like a caged animal. 280,000, he muttered, running his hands through his hair. They want $280,000 by the end of next month, Jess. What am I supposed to do? Jessica had known about Troy's gambling for 2 years now. At first, it was just friendly poker games, then online betting, then real casinos, then private games with people who didn't accept "I'll pay you next week" as an answer. We could ask my dad, she suggested carefully. Ask him? Troy laughed bitterly. Your father lectured me for 20 minutes last time we asked for 5,000. Remember? All that talk about fiscal responsibility and living within our means. What do you think he'll say about almost 300 grand? But if you explain, I can't explain. If I tell him the truth, he'll just look at me with that disappointed face, like I'm some kind of failure. Jessica bit her lip. She'd seen that disappointed face herself plenty of times over the years. Every time she quit a job because her boss was too demanding. Every time she bought something expensive they couldn't afford. Every time she asked for money. There might be another way, Troy said slowly, sitting down beside her. What do you mean? Your dad's house. It's worth, what, 340,000? Maybe more? Jessica frowned. So? So he's going to be gone for 3 weeks. And you said he's giving you power of attorney before he leaves, right? For emergencies? Troy, that's for medical stuff. In case something happens to him while he's traveling. Does it say that specifically in the document? She thought about it. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Troy leaned forward, his voice dropping. What if we could solve all our problems in one move? The house just sits there, right? He doesn't need all that space. He could downsize, get an apartment. People his age do it all the time. You're not seriously suggesting. I'm suggesting we take what's coming to you anyway. Eventually. Think about it, Jess. That house will be yours when he dies. Why should we lose everything? Maybe get hurt by these people Troy owes, just because we have to wait for some inheritance that might be decades away. Jessica felt something twist in her stomach. But Troy's fear was contagious. She'd seen the texts from his creditors, the thinly veiled threats. One had mentioned knowing where they lived. Over the next week, Troy worked on her carefully, reminding her of every time Harold had said no, every lecture, every disappointed look. He has the money to help us, and he won't. What kind of father does that? By the time I came over to give Jessica the power of attorney paperwork, she'd almost convinced herself this was justified. Just sign here and here, I said, pointing. It's just a precaution. Probably won't need it at all. But Maggie insisted. How is Maggie? Jessica asked, signing her name. She's good. Busy with work. She actually suggested I not give anyone power of attorney. Can you imagine? Said I should just have the embassy contact information instead. I laughed. I told her she was being paranoid. You're my daughter. Of course I trust you. Those words haunted me later. Of course I trust you. Jessica watched me leave that day, the document in her hand, and felt Troy's arms wrap around her from behind. "See how easy that was?" he whispered. "Now, we just need to wait for him to get on that plane. I've already found a notary who doesn't ask too many questions, and I know a real estate agent who specializes in quick sales." "Troy, I don't know. Do you want to be safe, or do you want to be homeless when these people come for their money? Because those are the only two options we have left." 2 weeks later, I boarded a plane to Tokyo, excited for my adventure. That same day, Jessica and Troy met with the notary to begin forging documents. I let the silence hang there for a moment, watching their faces. The smugness drained away like water from a broken glass. "The house you sold," I continued, my voice steady, "was actually placed in a revocable living trust 2 years ago, the Mitchell Family Trust. You didn't sell my house, Jessica. You sold a property that you had absolutely no legal right to sell." Troy's face went pale. "That's not you never said." "Why would I? It was none of your business." I turned to Jessica. "The power of attorney you used was specifically limited. Page 3, paragraph 2. It explicitly excluded any property held in trust. Did you even read the whole document before you forged those signatures?" Jessica's hands started to shake. "You're lying. You're just trying to scare us." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone, opening an email. "This is from the title company. They contacted Maggie 5 days ago. That's why she's co-trustee, you see. Any transfer of trust property requires both trustee signatures. When someone tried to sell the house with only forged documents and no co-trustee approval, it flagged in their system immediately." I turned the phone to show them the email chain. Jessica grabbed for it, but I pulled it back. "Maggie called me in Japan the moment she found out. I've been back in the country for 6 days, staying at her place. We've been documenting everything. Every call you made, every document you filed, every lie you told." The young couple who'd been moving furniture had stopped, standing frozen on the lawn. The husband stepped forward hesitantly. "I'm sorry, are you saying this sale isn't legitimate?" "I'm saying you'll get every penny back through title insurance. This wasn't your fault. You were victims too." I looked back at my daughter. "But Jessica and Troy here? They're the reason you're victims." Troy suddenly lunged toward his car. "We're leaving. You can't prove anything. Detective Morris Price is on his way," I said calmly. "Should be here in about 10 minutes. I called him before I got out of my car. And Troy? Running would be the absolute worst thing you could do right now." Troy froze, his hand on the car door. Jessica's voice came out small, broken. "Daddy, please. We can fix this. We'll give the money back." "What money? You sent it to Troy's gambling debts and your credit cards, didn't you? $340,000. Gone in less than a week. Even if you wanted to return it, you can't. We'll get it somehow." "How, Jessica?" My voice cracked despite my effort to stay calm. "How will you get $340,000? You haven't held a job in 2 years. Troy's business ventures have all failed. You have 7 maxed-out credit cards between you." Tears started running down her face. Real ones this time, not the manipulative kind she'd used so often before. "We were desperate. Those people Troy owes, they threatened us. We didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You chose not to come to me honestly. You chose to forge documents. You chose to steal my home. The home your mother and I built together while I was mourning her by taking the trip we never got to take together." Troy found his voice again, desperate now. "We can declare bankruptcy. You can't get blood from a stone, old man. We'll just start over." "Bankruptcy doesn't erase criminal charges," I said quietly. "Fraud, forgery, identity theft, elder abuse. The prosecutor is going to have a field day with this case." "You wouldn't press charges," Jessica whispered. "I'm your daughter." That's when my composure finally cracked. "You were my daughter. The daughter I knew would never have done this. I don't know who you've become." "You self-righteous." Troy started forward, his fists clenched. I didn't back up. "Go ahead. Add assault to the list. Give me one more reason why I should feel guilty about what's going to happen to you." He stopped, breathing hard. A police car pulled up to the curb. Detective Price stepped out, along with another officer. He looked at the scene, the moving truck, the confused couple, Jessica's tears, Troy's rage, and me standing there with my suitcase still in hand. "Mr. Mitchell?" Price asked. "That's me. And these are Jessica Mitchell and Troy Bennett?" "They are." Price pulled out a notepad. "We're going to need everyone's statements. Mr. and Mrs. Chen," he nodded to the couple, "you're not in any trouble. We just need to document what you were told about this property." Jessica grabbed my arm. "Dad, please, don't do this. I'm begging you." I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, the same hand that used to reach for me when she was scared as a little girl, the same hand that had signed fraudulent documents to destroy me. Gently, I removed her hand from my arm. "I have something else," I said to Detective Price. "Security footage from my home office. It shows them forging the documents." Jessica's legs buckled. Detective Price set up in my dining room, the dining room that was legally still mine. The table where Catherine and I had hosted Thanksgiving dinners, where Jessica had done her homework as a child, now covered with legal documents and evidence bags. "We'll need the security footage," Price said, his pen poised over his notepad. I pulled out a flash drive. "Everything's here. Time-stamped. Shows them entering my office with the power of attorney document, comparing it to other papers, practicing signatures." Troy sat slumped in a chair, his earlier bravado completely gone. Jessica stood by the window, her arms wrapped around herself, shaking. The door opened, and Maggie walked in, her lawyer briefcase in hand. She looked at Jessica with an expression I'd never seen from her before, pure contempt. "The title company has already begun processing the fraud claim," Maggie said, pulling out folders. "The buyers will be made whole within 72 hours. Their deposit, closing costs, moving expenses, everything." "And us?" Troy asked, his voice barely a whisper. "You're liable for all of it. $340,000 for the fraudulent sale price, plus another $35,000 in related damages. That's $375,000. Jessica made a choking sound. "But we don't have it," Troy said. "We spent it. It's gone." "That's not the title company's problem," Maggie replied coldly. "They'll recover it however they can. Wage garnishment, property seizure, liens on any future assets. And that's just the civil side." Detective Price cleared his throat. "Let's talk about the criminal charges. Forgery in the first degree, Class C felony. Identity theft, Class D felony. Grand larceny, Class B felony. Elder abuse, Class E felony. We're looking at a potential 15 to 25 years combined." Troy lurched forward. "This was all her idea. Jessica planned everything. I just went along with it." "You piece of—" Jessica spun around, her face flushed with rage. "You're the one who owed the money. You're the one who said we had no choice. You pressured me for weeks. You forged the signatures. Your handwriting is all over those documents. Because you couldn't copy his signature correctly. You tried 4 times and messed it up every time." Detective Price took notes calmly as they tore into each other, each desperate to shift blame. I watched my daughter destroy what was left of her marriage in real time, and felt nothing but emptiness. "Enough," Price said finally. "You're both equally culpable. The evidence makes that clear." A younger officer entered, speaking quietly to Price. "The real estate agent just arrived. She's ready to make a statement. Says she wants to cooperate fully." Jessica's face crumbled. "No, no, no, no. This can't be happening." Maggie opened another folder. "There's something else you should know, Jessica. Your father updated his will 18 months ago." My daughter's eyes widened, with a flicker of hope, horrible, greedy hope even now. "The house remains in trust until Harold's death. At that point, it transfers to the Catherine Mitchell Memorial Foundation, a charity we're establishing to help elderly victims of financial exploitation. You receive a cash bequest of $50,000 with a condition." "What condition?" Jessica whispered. That you demonstrate rehabilitation of character. That's the exact wording. If Harold determines you haven't, the bequest goes to the charity as well. The hope died in Jessica's eyes. You did that 18 months ago? You already didn't trust me? I met her gaze steadily. I saw who you were becoming, how you treated service workers, how you talked about people with less money than you wanted, how you looked at my house like it was already yours, like I was just inconveniently occupying it. A parent sees these things, Jessica. I hoped I was wrong, but you still gave me power of attorney. Because you're my daughter. Because I wanted to believe the best of you. Because love makes us foolish. Troy suddenly stood up. I want a lawyer. I'm not saying anything else without a lawyer. That's your right, Price said. But know this. We have security footage. Forged documents with your fingerprints. Testimony from the notary who's already cooperating. And phone records showing you researched selling house without owner knowledge 3 weeks before Mr. Mitchell left for Japan. The evidence is overwhelming. I want a lawyer, Troy repeated. Jessica sank into a chair, her face in her hands. I'm so sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught. She looked up at me, mascara streaking her face, and couldn't answer. That's when I knew. Whatever we'd had, whatever bond between father and daughter, it was broken beyond repair. Maybe it had been breaking for years, and I'd refused to see it. Take them, I said to Detective Price. Dad, please. I don't want to hear it anymore, Jessica. I'm tired. I'm heartbroken. And I'm done. Price began reading them their rights as they were let out. The house fell silent except for Maggie's hand finding mine. Are you okay? She asked softly. I looked around at the home Catherine and I had built, nearly lost to greed and betrayal. I will be, I said, eventually. 6 months had passed since that terrible day. The courtroom proceedings had been brutal, watching Jessica break down on the stand, hearing Troy try to minimize his role, seeing the judge's face harden with each new detail revealed. Jessica received 3 years in minimum security prison. Troy got 5 years in a medium security facility. The difference came down to cooperation. Once Troy had tried to blame everything on her, Jessica had stopped protecting him and told the complete truth. The judge acknowledged her honesty, even though it came too late. They'd divorced before sentencing. Jessica signed the papers in the holding cell, her hands shaking so badly she could barely write her name. Troy hadn't even bothered to show up. He'd already moved on to blaming the system, the judge, his lawyer, everyone except himself. I stood in my kitchen now, the morning sun streaming through windows that I'd once thought I'd lost forever. The house was quiet, peaceful. Every lock had been changed, every security code updated. Maggie had moved in 3 months ago, and her presence had transformed the place from a mausoleum of memories into a home again. Coffee's ready, she called from the living room, where she sat surrounded by paperwork for the foundation, the Catherine Mitchell Memorial Foundation. We'd spent 4 months setting it up properly, establishing the legal framework, creating application processes, finding board members. Our mission was simple: help elderly people protect their assets from exploitation, whether from family members, scam artists, or anyone else who preyed on trust. Our first grant recipient was a 78-year-old woman whose son had drained her retirement account through a series of loans he never intended to repay. We paid for her legal fees to recover what could be recovered and set up a protective trust for what remained. She'd cried on the phone when we told her she was approved. How many applications this week? I asked, sitting beside Maggie. 14. Each one breaks my heart a little more. She handed me a file. This one especially. Grandson convinced his grandmother to take out a reverse mortgage, then disappeared with the money. I read through the details, feeling that familiar anger rise up, but it was different now, not the raw, personal betrayal I'd felt 6 months ago, but a focused determination to help others avoid what I'd endured. Approve her, I said. Full legal support and financial counseling. Maggie marked the file and set it aside. We're making a difference, Harold. Catherine would be proud. Catherine. I still thought about her every day, but the grief had softened into something gentler. Taking the Japan trip had helped. I'd scattered some of her ashes in Kyoto at a temple garden she'd always wanted to see. The rest remained in an urn in our bedroom, waiting for my own ashes to join them someday. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. A courier stood on the porch with a certified letter. My stomach tightened as I signed for it. Certified mail rarely brought good news. The return address was from the Women's Correctional Facility where Jessica was serving her sentence. I sat down before opening it, and Maggie moved closer, her hand on my shoulder. The letter was 4 pages, handwritten in Jessica's careful script. No fancy stationery this time, just plain prison paper. Asterisk. Dear Dad. Asterisk. Asterisk. I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect anything from you anymore. But my therapist says I need to write it anyway, whether you read it or not. Asterisk. Asterisk. I can't blame Troy. I can't blame desperation or fear or anything else. I made the choices I made. I looked at your house, at your home, the place you built with Mom, and I saw dollar signs. I saw a solution to my problems. I didn't see your heart. I didn't see Mom's memory. I didn't see the betrayal for what it was. Asterisk. Asterisk. I've had 6 months to think about when I changed. When I stopped being the daughter who brought you drawings and started being the woman who forged your signature. It wasn't one moment. It was 1,000 small compromises. 1,000 times I chose the easy path over the right one. Asterisk. Asterisk. Troy didn't make me this way. He just gave me permission to become what I was already becoming. Asterisk. Asterisk. I'm in therapy 3 times a week. I'm taking classes. I'm working in the prison library. I'm trying to find the person I used to be, before greed and entitlement poisoned everything good in me. Asterisk. Asterisk. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking you to visit or write back or put money in my commissary account. I just need you to know that I understand what I did. I understand what I destroyed. And I'm so sorry. Asterisk. Asterisk. I love you, Dad. I know I have no right to say that anymore, but it's true. I'm sorry I forgot how to show it. Asterisk. Asterisk. Jessica. Asterisk. I read the letter twice, then a 3rd time. Maggie read over my shoulder, silent. What are you going to do? She finally asked. I folded the letter carefully. I don't know yet. Do you believe her? I don't know that either. I walked to my office and opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was a framed photo I'd placed face down months ago, 6-year-old Jessica on my shoulders, both of us laughing at something Catherine had said while taking the picture. A perfect moment from before everything got complicated. I took out the photo and looked at it for a long time. That little girl had grown into someone I didn't recognize, but maybe, possibly, she could find her way back to something better. Not the innocent child that was gone forever, but perhaps a decent adult who understood her mistakes. I set the photo on my desk, upright this time, not displayed prominently, not celebrated, just there, acknowledged. Then I went to my computer and logged into the prison commissary system. I added $50 to Jessica's account, not a fortune, just enough for basic necessities and a few small comforts. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But not complete abandonment either. Come on, Maggie said from the doorway. We have 3 more applications to review, and the lawyer needs us to sign off on the foundation's quarterly filing. I followed her back to the living room, to the work we were building from the ashes of betrayal. The house stood solid around us, legally protected, rightfully mine. Catherine's memory lived on in the foundation that bore her name. Jessica had tried to take everything from me. Instead, she'd inadvertently given me purpose. I couldn't decide if that was justice or just irony. Maybe it was both.